Alright. Home stretch, let's go. But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There is no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason is why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in an instant death. Ah! Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there, if what Miss Pavlova told us was true. What? This. The piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. That's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck, but we already knew about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. And we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there's a big flaw. A fatal flaw. That's really what happened. Then how did one half of the bell end up back here in the cabin? Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that wastepaper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. Now, when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the crime scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. There was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's... Wow, you are wasting time. Someone else was there. Duh, of course, we all know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There's no way in or out. Oh yes. The only other person in the cabin when the young student died was you! Yes! It's true. I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I could have left that message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Ha 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 ha! Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yeah, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light on the floor there. Little wonder then the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Seaman Stroganov. Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on the ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse the ship's angel of being criminal. In this universe and Mortal Kombat. So that's it. You say that when the young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. That is not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. Look truth in eyes. Cabin bolted was shut from inside. No one could go in the cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Niet! It's impossible. He's right. But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside. Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel, not a gap in sight. No thread or needle or magnets could have been used. No, of course not. I thought so too. Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... How could you shift it on me like that? Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. What? I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? You know what I mean. A way to shut the bolt to the cabin door from the outside. One way does spring to mind, yes. It's the emergency stop. We've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the...
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. But any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe that's called inertia. Oh, we're getting into physics now. There's nothing Susato-san doesn't know? Well, that isn't in her book at least. Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else on the cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We'd come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello, is anybody in there? Shout if you need assistance. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. It's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's shut and change of speed. Or the first of ineptia, if you want to call it that. You're trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed. The SS Buria made it another emergency stop. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hands across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? That's when we came onto this cabin, and we were surprised to see the same thing here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like Mr. Asogi's. You have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You said Beria made emergency stop. It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. A sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Oh, wait! It was you! When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Dude, really? Surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now. Yeah, you go after him. Now, I'm sure that all can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learned a valuable lesson. When a vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin door slide closed. So, what we must now consider. Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did the ship make an emergency stop or did it not? You are idiots! Beria issues ship with many passengers. We make emergency stop even in middle of night. There would be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Yeah, we have the ship's log.
Yes!
Seaman Stroganov. It is your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right? Duh, that is correct. Why? And the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine! Ah, you rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it there always. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances you write the phrase, nothing to report, every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log. That is... Duh, because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write nothing to report, wouldn't you? Good. Indeed so. Which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Beria. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget about, to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night? Stop talking rubbish! If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh, why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anyone would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Well, no. That's a good point. What of the throbbing? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We all have suffered with it. Oh yes, I've had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right, my head's been throbbing today too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. The food was drugged. Why did I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo. You boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yeah. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't really include meals. What did you survive on? Well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact, I had all of it. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug? You mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, seaman? I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be inquiry made with the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew, and the captain himself, would be hauled over the coals. For aiding and abetting a renegade. Please, no more. I'll tell everything. Hey! I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help, everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel. I don't believe it. You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yeah, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. Da, we could not make all drug. How you say, dissolve? Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat. While all the passengers of the SS Virya slept soundly. Thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you to have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins. After which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway, so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked a long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But I don't know about any of this. I'm just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories we don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. What? I'm quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes. Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind? What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. You must hear it with your eyes. Observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular. The truth! So, Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please. Of these two prevaricators, observation. If you remember, Mr. Naruhodo, you know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asogi's death. Alrighty. Alright, we need some... What? Hello there! Look at this. It's a kind of stain in an unusual place. It's ink. It's clear where this came from. Seaman Stroganoff, you seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there. Eh? Oh yes, I don't know where the dirt comes from. So nothing in particular comes to mind about this stain. What are you trying to say? It would appear that the significance of the stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Perhaps to make it plain, it's a very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Stroganoff's uniform. Indeed it is. Present the evidence that proves it.
Yes!
Yes, it is this photograph and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform. Ink? A rather unusual color of ink, purple. Hey! The penny drops, at last. Now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. And the stain on the back of your uniform is ink of the same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't be possibly stain your uniform in that way. Which means you must have been present in the cabin moments immediately after the ink was spilled. Alright, yes, it was me. I did it. Everything. I arranged everything in Dead Student's cabin to make it look like Wardrobe Man did it. Then I pressed button to make Burrier do emergency stop and bolt cabin door shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel. Biff, please. Don't worry, Angel. Let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty, patrolling passageway. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet. Biff, please, you must help me. I went with her. Door to cabin number 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw student boy on floor. What happened here? Please, don't tell anyone. My little one. My little furry friend. Everything that happened in cabin is like Angel told you. The kitten escaped through the ventilator in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell to the floor. Yes, that is right. So after the incident, when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers, only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor. She said she was worried when she heard sound of something falling on the floor. That's when she went to look. No. Angel? The door was not locked. So she opened to look, and you already know what happened after. There's just one thing, if you wouldn't mind. What? When you went to Mr. Asogi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead? Why? I already told you. When Nina opened the door of student's cabin and looked in, I was asking Miss Pavlova. Well, Miss Pavlova? Da. Oh. Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark, and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor. No moving. I was scared. I understand, and I believe you. So is that finally it now? Have we discovered the real truth about Kazuma's death at last? Not yet. Something very nearly slipped my mind. Mr. Scholz? This photograph. Yes, I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck. Therefore, the victim died instantly. Unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there is one particular area in this photograph. It seems to be somewhat unnatural. What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo? Well... sloppy. Oh, that is it. A fist. Almost, you might say. As either were gripping something. What do you mean? Simply that I took the liberty of investigating that victim's fist a short while ago. What, pray, do you imagine I found there? My dear fellow? Okay, that was right. Why, of course, my dear madam. Why would I keep you in suspense? This is what I found. It's a crescent moon with a little gemstone in it. It tells us nothing. I'm not so sure. It looks like it's familiar. It's an earring. And I know who it belongs to. There's only one person who wears earrings.
Yes!
Miss Pavlova, on your ear there, I see you have a crescent moon as well. What? And on your other ear? There seems to be a crescent moon missing. And the link holding it must have broken, I suppose. Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly there is one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. Miss Pavlova, Mr. Isogi must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear. Perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. In other words, last night in Mr. Isogi's cabin, you witnessed the moment when the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length from him. But then the question is, why did Mr. Isogi do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and hold onto it with his clenched fist during his final moments? Oh no. Angel. No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova, tell us the truth. Last night, what did you do to Kazuma? Yeah. When I think about everything that happened yesterday, it was too much. Running away, the fishing boat in the middle of the night, trying to climb onto this huge ship. And then, when I was at this cabin, I could relax after this horrible long day. Darka, wait! I couldn't believe it when she disappeared through the ventilator. I tried to call her with a little whistle. I tried waving her favorite toy. But nothing worked. Darka would not come back. are you doing here this time of night, Inspector? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a friend of mine. The young man from your country. He was very polite and kind. He helped me to find Darka, and he promised not to tell anyone. But then, when I had my friend in my arms again, and I was going to leave the man's cabin... Just a moment. Sorry, but... Oh, yes? I'm sure I know your face. I've seen you somewhere before. Of course. You're Nikolina Pavlova, aren't you? The Russian ballerina. No, I don't know that name. My heart nearly stopped when he said that. He knew I was. How could this man from a land in the faraway east know a Russian ballerina? Yes, I saw your performance in Japan. The beauty of the ballet made a deep impression on me. But, what are you doing on this ship? I'm sure I read your ballet company was performing in Shanghai at the moment. I cannot fool him. I have to tell him the truth, and hope he doesn't tell anyone. I have no other choice. I see. So you've run away. Please keep my secret. Don't tell anyone. Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here. He's gonna pull that cord. He's gonna tell the captain. Why did I think I could trust him? Then it happened. Everything at once. It was only a second, but it felt like forever. Wait! And then... Darka jumped out of my arms and down to the young man's feet. And... as he turned around to look at me... I pushed him. I don't even know why. I don't know why I did it. I was just so scared. And I had to stop him from telling anyone about me. And that's when you went to fetch help. From Seaman Stroganoff, who was on duty in the first passageway. I heard Nina cry out and thud on the floor, so I ran to her. She was standing at cabin door, shaking like a leaf. She looked at me and said, "Help me, Biff. If they find out, I will be. Please, I have nowhere to go." So you decided to help. And that's when you arranged things in Kazuma's cabin to make it look like I did it. So that no one would suspect the passenger in the cabin next door. Yes. I went to the cabin and looked around to make sure there was nothing to show Nina was there. And then I found Stowaway. In wardrobe. Still sleeping. So you worked out a plan. To lay the blame on the Stowaway. I closed wardrobe doors and put back strange paper sign. Luckily for me, that's the only reason Susato started to believe me when I said I was innocent. I dragged young man's body to good place, and used ink that was spilling to write on floor. I wrote, wardrobe, so that person who found him would look inside wardrobe and find Stowaway. And tell me where the glass fell. It was by my feet, so I picked it up. I see. But it was dark in the cabin. I didn't notice the other half. Then Angel went back to her cabin, and I finished job by pressing the emergency alarm button in the passageway. Yes. Accordingly, the SS Berea did indeed come to an emergency halt at a little after 2, thus enticing the bolt on the cabin door to slide shut, creating the locked room mystery. There's still one thing I don't understand, Miss Pavlova. What? Well, you said you told Kazuma about the fact you'd run away from your homeland, And it's because you were worried he was going to tell the captain that you pushed him. Isn't that right? Yes. But even if he had pulled the bell cord and called for the captain of the ship, aren't you friends with every member of the crew? Why would that have been a problem? It was what he said first that made me scared. What he said first. What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh. I'm sorry. I thought it was a friend of mine. He said an inspector was his friend. Oh, yes, meaning me. Who was supposed to be acting as his bodyguard. I thought if police knew about me, they would arrest me. So before he could pull the bell cord, I... May I stop you a moment, please, Miss Pavlova? It just doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, was Mr. Usogi really gonna pull the bell cord? I don't know. What? What do you think? Nah, he wasn't gonna do that. Well, I'm not Kazuma, so I can't know for certain. But he was a man of his word. If he told you he wouldn't give you your secret away, he wouldn't have done. No, he was walking over to it. He was going to pull the cord. He was going to make them send me back. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, the day's work is not yet done, it seems. There's one more deduction to make. Yes, what action was the victim really about to take at the moment? Can we determine whither the young man's gaze was directed? Yes, we can. First, consider the victim's location within his cabin. That's easy. I remember every detail about her. I mean, yes, I spent quite a lot of time in the wardrobe, but still. That cabin's been home for the entire voyage. So this is how the cabin looked last night when Miss Pavlova visited. If there's one thing I've learned today, it's that a simple gaze can reveal all manner of truths. And not only that, in order to draw the right conclusion, you can't afford to be out by even a little bit when you're following the gaze to where it leads. The wardrobe. Considering everything that had happened last night, certainly it may have looked as though Kazuma was going to ring the bell cord. However, what is directly beside the bell cord? The wardrobe. The wardrobe. And more importantly, what was inside the wardrobe? The man's great friend, sleeping soundly. Miss Pavlova, please, think back very carefully. What were Mr. Usogi's exact words last night? Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here. Another opinion. Yes, but not from a member of the crew. No, Mr. Usogi intended to consult his close friend on the matter. To see if between them, they might be able to help in some way, no doubt. Oh no. Sadly, we can't know the truth for certain now. It's too late for that. But I wish you had made sure of what Mrs. Usogi was looking at. Things may have ended very differently if you had. Miss Pavlova, I want to thank you for finally admitting the truth. But unfortunately, the truth is, a man lost his life because of what you did, and that will never change. Even if it was one of the worst days of your life. I hope You'll never forget that. I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry. What have I done? And so, at long last, the mystery surrounding the tragic accident on the SS Berge was finally laid to rest. What will happen to Miss Pavlova now, then? Once we reach Great Britain, she'll be handed over to the British police at Scotland Yard. What about the fact she ran away from Russia? Won't the Russians try to repatriate her? Apparently, the English detectives can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Mr. Sholmes can do all that? So she won't be going back to Russia then? No, I don't think so. Even if she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. She ran away, so now she's in exile for life. That's rough. I see. I'm sorry. Seaman Stroganoff? I wanted to help our angel, no matter what. But I didn't think about you. About how you lost good friend. I will go with Nina. I will give myself to British police. That's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Kazuma's death feels like such a waste, but... well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you? Da! Well, I'm afraid you need to pack now. We're due to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. As much as it pains me, I'm going to have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan. Yes, I did stow away after all. I couldn't really expect any different. So, you should get back to your cabin now. Well, that was a short game. Looks like my study tour to Great Britain is over before it's even begun then. To think that only days ago Kazuma and I were laughing together at how we tear up the streets of London. Seems like a distant memory now. Oh, what's that? Is it? Someone weeping? Of course. Susato-san. Naruto-san, I didn't know you'd returned. Well, I haven't been back long. Inspector Hosonaga just told me I should pack, you know. Ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that. Oh. I still can't believe this happened. I can't believe someone's life can be over just like that. Susato-san. He had such grand ideas for his visit to Great Britain. So many dreams. And now they've been cruelly taken away. Just as he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible. But now we know the truth. That was just an accident. Just a silly series of mishaps. It's too much, Naruhodo-san. Just too much. Yes, I know. I wish there was something I could say. Inspector, my duty was to see Asogi-san safely to Great Britain. I failed, and caused his two closest friends great pain and suffering as a result. I've let everyone down. And I will do anything to make up for my terrible blunder. Nobody blames you, Inspector. And I'm free again now, at least, what? Surprise, Mr. Naruhodo? What is the meaning of this? Oh, a trifling matter. Simply that in my head, I think I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. What if I put them on you first? Without them, the balance seems all wrong. It's distracting. Sorry. So I decided to restore them, for old time's sake, shall we say. You're a stowaway after all. He thinks this is funny? Mr. Sholmes, we do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not at all, not at all. And though it's a little late, may I offer my sincere condolences. The loss of your companion is truly heartrending. I hope you'll be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor. I'm afraid that won't be possible. We shall be disembarking at the next port in Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that's happened. Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was the stowaway. No, she's the assistant. The terms of his study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. It was to be one lawyer and one assistant. Was to be? In the light of Mr. Sogi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead. I don't care for me, but... Poor Susato-san. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an incredibly simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely. But there's no one with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer. Qualifications, you say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be of little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid. Oh, but anyway, the voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. Yes? Miss Susato? Yes? You think perhaps I might be able to do it? But you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruhodo. Unless... Are you studying law? No, I'm not, but... I'm sorry. In that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work. But as I said, there is still more than a month before we reach England's shores. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? I have a whole month in which to study, to learn what I must to become a lawyer in Great Britain. Mr. Naruhodo? That's ridiculous. Are you seriously suggesting anybody could learn all that in just 40 days? Phileas Fogg's done that in 80. There's only one way to find out. I'd work my fingers to the bone, Inspector. Every single day. Will you let me try? And if by the time we reach Great Britain, I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. Why put yourself in a difficult position? For Kazuma. He said there was something he had to do in Great Britain, and that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. I can't let all that passion just come to nothing. And anyway, it's for my own benefit too. I'll become a lawyer. I have to. What do you say, Miss Susato? I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you. So, what does our bespectacled Inspector Fred say? Are you serious? One lawyer and one assistant. The numbers are indisputable. No, no, no. It's madness. Yet fascinating. Would you agree? Fascinating. Duty and rules are the dull routine of existence that we all uphold. Give us interest. Give us fascination. Speak for yourself. Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. What matters is his character. No? And you've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes. From the early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion and despite the accusation of guilt, this man has shown resourcefulness, in intelligence, and above all, courage. Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice. Inspector, after all, I did just make a promise, didn't I? I said I'd do anything at all to make up for my shortcomings here. Thank you, Inspector. If you'll excuse me, I must pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think. I need to discuss what to do next and how best to make my report. Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm going to try. I wonder, would you consider teaching me what I need to know? Everything about being a lawyer. I would be delighted to help you. I am a judicial assistant after all. Thank you. And, Mr. Naruhodo, I'd like you to take this charge of this. Are you sure? I'm sure it's what Kazuma-sama would have wanted. Its name is Karuma. It's a great sword that's been in the Asogi clan for generations. Very well. I accept. I'll treasure it always. Karma, huh? So then, Miss Susato. Seems we'll be working together for some time to come yet. It will be an honor, Mr. Naruhodo. And for the next 40 days, I shan't grant you a single minute of freedom. We shall fill every spare moment with study. Yes, that's exactly what I need. But, before we begin, I have an earnest favor to ask of you, too. Goodness, what is it? Please throw me to the ground. 3 times. What? I should never have doubted you. You were Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course you would never have done anything to hurt him. That should have been obvious to me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me. And no matter how upset I was feeling, it was completely unforgivable behavior. No, you were in shock. You just found out about me stowing away. The cabin door was locked from the inside. No, I won't let you make excuses for me. Whatever the circumstances, I should never have thrown you. And not just once, but 5 times. That number keeps creeping up, doesn't it? You must take hold of me and throw me. Do it. Don't even think about it. I don't even know how. I've never thrown anyone in my life. Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. I observed your throwing technique several times with great interest. I confessed I was most impressed. When did he see that? I presume that would be a form of Japanese wrestling? Oh, well, in a way, it's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of an ancient jujitsu technique. It's called the Sudasato takedown. It leaves your head swimming, believe me. How beguiling. I'm a practitioner of the combative arts myself. I am a somewhat accomplished boxer. There he goes, dancing around again. I wonder if you'd be so kind as to instruct me on the technique of your arresting throw. Yes, I'd be honored. Let us not dally. Demonstrate, my dear madam. Of course. Oh no, not again. Sorry. Hiya! Great. As you can see, you throw from the abdomen. Ah, yes, it's arresting indeed. And that is what you term the Susato takedown, is it? Actually, no. That was a Susato squash. In my groggy state of consciousness, a scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my mind. Karuma. That's right. It's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. I can't believe you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking a katana on a city tour is more than a little irregular, surely. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Rinosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Karuma guides me. I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two. Not that you would be much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain, and I'll sacrifice anything to make it happen. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. We'll probably never know what that is. But I'm going to see the place for myself and work it out. In Great Britain's capital, London. And with that, we are finally done with the second episode. Crash Course Candidate. Time to save, and I'll see you guys next time.